There are people who wake up every day and fight enemies nobody can see. Not society, not family, not the world. The enemy lives inside them. It speaks with their voice. It knows every wound, every mistake, every regret, and it never stops talking. You're not enough. You ruin everything. You don't deserve love. You will never change. Most people think self-hatred is loud, dramatic, obvious. They imagine someone openly saying they hate themselves. But real self-hatred rarely looks like that. Sometimes it looks like perfectionism. Sometimes it looks like overworking. Sometimes it looks like isolation. Sometimes it looks like smiling while quietly believing everyone would be better without you. The most dangerous prisons are not built from iron. They are built from beliefs. And self-hatred is one of the strongest prisons the human mind can create. Because once a person believes they are the problem, they stop fighting the world and start fighting themselves. Today, we are entering the psychology of people who hate themselves. Why it happens, how it forms, why some people become their own worst enemy, and why the voice in their head often sounds more cruel than anyone they have ever met. The origin of self-hatred. Nobody is born hating themselves. A child does not enter the world believing they are worthless. That belief is learned, slowly, repeatedly, sometimes silently. Psychologists often describe self-image as a mirror built from experiences. A child looks into the eyes of parents, teachers, friends, society, and asks one question: who am I? The answers become identity. If the world says you matter, the child learns worth. If the world says you are a burden, the child learns shame. And shame is where self-hatred begins. Because shame is different from guilt. Guilt says, I made a mistake. Shame says, I am the mistake. One attacks behavior. The other attacks identity. And once identity is attacked repeatedly, the person begins carrying invisible poison. Maybe they grew up criticized for everything. Maybe love was conditional. Maybe affection disappeared whenever they failed. Maybe they were compared, ignored, rejected, bullied, abandoned. Or perhaps nobody hurt them intentionally, but nobody truly saw them either. Neglect leaves wounds too. Humans need emotional reflection. Without it, they become strangers to themselves. And when pain goes unexplained, children often blame themselves. Because believing I am bad feels safer than believing the people protecting me failed me. So the child adapts. I must be the problem. Years pass. The child becomes an adult, but the belief survives. And now the enemy lives inside. The inner critic. Inside almost every self-hating person lives a voice. Not a hallucination, not madness, a psychological structure. The inner critic. It remembers every humiliation, every failure, every embarrassing moment, and it archives them like evidence. The strange thing is, this voice often begins as protection. Many children become hypercritical because criticism helped them survive. If perfection prevented punishment, perfection became safety. If being quiet avoided conflict, silence became survival. The mind learned, attack yourself first. Because if you hurt yourself before others do, their words hurt less. At least, that is what the brain believes. So the critic develops. And over time, protection becomes torture. The person succeeds. The critic says it wasn't enough. They rest. The critic calls them lazy. Someone loves them. The critic says they are being fooled. Nothing satisfies it, because its purpose was never happiness. Its purpose was survival. And survival does not care if you are at peace, only if you are safe. This is why some people achieve everything and still hate themselves. Success cannot heal an identity wound. Money cannot silence shame. Validation cannot permanently repair beliefs formed in pain. Because the battle was never external. It was internal. Why they push people away. One of the most tragic effects of self-hatred is that people who need love the most often struggle to receive it. Because self-hatred creates contradiction. They crave connection, but fear intimacy. They want to be understood, but hide themselves. They want love, but believe they do not deserve it. Imagine someone hands you a gift, but you believe you are unworthy. The gift becomes uncomfortable. Love becomes suspicious. Compliments feel false. Affection feels dangerous. Because acceptance conflicts with identity. Their mind says, if you truly knew me, you would leave. So they hide, or sabotage, or disappear. Not because they do not care, but because closeness activates fear. Psychologists call this attachment wounds. People often recreate emotional environments that feel familiar, even painful ones, because familiarity feels safer than uncertainty. A person raised in criticism may distrust kindness. A person raised in abandonment may expect loss. A person raised feeling unwanted may reject others before being rejected. Self-hatred whispers, leave first, hide first, destroy it first. Because losing people hurts less when you caused it yourself. At least that creates the illusion of control.
I stare into a perfect void as if staring into my own mind. It is a void of finite resources that captures a geography. The loch spreads out before me like the tomb of my own wishes, a callous body of water as grey as an alien abduction. I realize that, staring into the loch, I am staring into myself. There is no visible depth, only a mirrored absorption of external scenes and impressions of rancor.
The mask. Self-hatred rarely looks broken. Sometimes it looks successful, disciplined, funny, helpful, the person everyone depends on. Many self-hating people become masters of masks because they fear exposure. If people see the real them, the version they secretly despise, what happens then? So they perform. The perfect student, the strong friend, the achiever, the caretaker, the quiet one, the joker. Each role protects the wounded self beneath it. Carl Jung called this the persona, the social mask created for survival. The problem is, wear a mask too long, and you forget who you are underneath. Now identity becomes performance. Worth becomes productivity. Existence becomes exhausting. Because they are not living, they are acting. And actors eventually collapse when the audience disappears. Perfectionism is often self-hatred in disguise. People think perfectionists love themselves. Often, the opposite is true. Perfectionism is frequently fear wearing ambition as a costume. The self-hating mind creates impossible standards because achievement promises temporary relief. If I become enough, maybe I can finally stop hating myself. So they chase grades, money, status, body image, success, recognition, and every achievement works for a moment. Then the emptiness returns, because perfection was never the goal. Worth was. And worth cannot be earned endlessly. Eventually, they become trapped. Success no longer feels good. Failure feels catastrophic. Rest feels guilty. Life becomes performance. The cruel irony? People admire them, while they secretly despise themselves. The world sees strength. They feel emptiness. Why some people become addicted to pain? Humans adapt to emotional environments, even painful ones. If suffering becomes familiar, peace feels foreign. This is why some self-hating people unconsciously repeat pain. They stay in toxic relationships, sabotage opportunities, choose people who hurt them, remain where they are unwanted, because suffering confirms identity. If I am worthless, pain makes sense. Psychology calls this confirmation bias. Humans search for evidence supporting existing beliefs. Self-hating people do this too, but emotionally. Someone rejects them? Proof. Someone criticizes them? Proof. Someone leaves? Proof. Everything becomes evidence, and slowly, pain becomes identity. Not because they enjoy suffering, but because suffering feels honest. The greatest lie self-hatred ever tells is this: that it is truth. But self-hatred is not truth. It is memory, pain, conditioning, survival mechanisms, old voices wearing your face. And in the next part, we enter the darkest stage of all, when self-hatred becomes identity itself. Because once a person stops saying, "I hate myself," and starts saying, "This is who I am," the prison closes completely.